Well, you know, you can say, if you know your address, if you Google it, then they push that.
Okay, Madam Vice President, I am all set on my end.
Do you think we have our membership on board here? I think just about everybody I see. We have 18 participants, so I think we're 1, 2, 3 who are not counts, 4 who are not councilors, 5. We're missing probably 2 people here. Oh no, I see many more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10. I only see 10 of us. Oh, and there's a telephone, 11. We're missing 4. 12. I see Brad, 12. When the clock strikes 8, we're ready to go, Mr. Vice President and Mr. Clerk. So we'll just wait for the 8 o'clock. Which I think it is now. Mr. Clerk, could you ask who's ever got that background? There's someone in the background making noise. Would you ask them, please, everybody check to make sure they are muted. You each check your screen to make sure you're muted, please. I think we just, whatever it was, we just solved the problem. So, Mr. Clerk, Auditor Santafanti, whenever you're ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Okay. President Brasco.
Present.
Councilor Darcy.
Present.
Councilor Dunn.
Present.
Councilor Durkee.
Present.
Councilor Harris.
Present.
Councilor LaCava.
Present.
Councilor LaFosse.
Present.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Present.
Councilor Mackin. Councilor McLaughlin.
Present.
Councilor O'Brien.
Present.
Councilor Paz.
Present.
Councilor Stanley.
Present.
Councilor Vidal. and Vice President McMenamin.
Present. So we opened our meeting at 8 o'clock. Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. How many members of the Committee of the Whole are present?
I see Councilor Mackin.
Present.
Thank you. The only councilor not on the call is Councilor Vidal.
I think I just admitted him, Mr. Sanafani.
I'm right here.
Thank you. All councilors present, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Clerk Santafanti. So tonight is June 1, time is 8:02. Finance Committee has come to order. 15 members are present. We have the approval of 3 sets of meeting, excuse me, I take that back. I'm in the wrong agenda. I'm in the Finance Committee, so just a minute here. Oh, we only have one matter on the agenda for the evening, one new matter. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of May 18th, 2020?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I didn't send those out earlier today, so I would respectfully ask
therefore,
to be tabled.
Councilor Fossey makes a motion that we table the minutes of May 18th, 2020. On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Before we adjourn, I will mention to you that in this committee, before COVID began, we had several items that we were working diligently to find some disposition for. One of those items, we had an opinion come back from the law department this past week on one of the matters about executive session. It's in our committee, but I would not want to take it off the docket. I think what we should do is wait until we are able to physically meet as a committee of the whole and discuss what we want to do with those minutes, if that's amenable to everybody. So that matter is still on the table. We'll discuss it when we're all together. So right now I will entertain, if there are no matters that anyone wishes to take off the table, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Councilor Fossey made the motion that the committee of the whole will be adjourned at 8:04 on June 1, 2020. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We will be moving into the Finance Committee, and I'm sure that the chair has a lot to tell us. Good evening. Thank you.
Mrs. Sanafani, ready when you are, sir.
Okay. The time is 8:06. And let me call the roll, please. Councilor LaFosse,
Present.
Councilor Mackin,
Present.
Councilor McMenamin,
Present.
Councilor Vidal,
Present.
Chairman LaCava.
Present. That is, excuse me.
The first
Aye.
on the agenda is to approve the minutes of April 21st.
I'll make the motion.
Councilor Fossey makes a motion for approval of those minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Those minutes are approved.
The next agenda item is to approve the minutes of the meeting of May 4th.
Councilor Vidal would like to make a motion for approval.
Councilor Vidal makes a motion for approval.
Make that
All those in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
The next agenda item is to approve the minutes of the meeting of May 18th.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Councilor McMiniman makes a motion for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Those minutes are approved. Thank you.
The next agenda item is a request of the mayor to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Librarians Union for the contract period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And I am available to speak on the matter.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we hear from all off-committee members on this matter.
You've all heard a sense of the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilor McMiniman, you have the floor.
I would ask the auditor if he would give us what I'd like, could I ask through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Santafanti, will you read communication, the actual communication to us from the mayor, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
From the mayor. Dear councilors, just prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the city and the library union reached agreement on a collective bargaining agreement covering the 3-year period from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2022. I respectfully request approval of the funding of the collective bargaining agreement for the first year of the contract period, July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. Funding for the remaining 2 years of the contract will be included in the mayor's recommendation for the library budget for fiscal 21 and fiscal 22. The value of the first year of the contract period is $45,000. Our projections estimate there are sufficient existing funds in the library salary account that additional funds are not needed. In addition to the compensation, Agreement was reached on several language items, including a reduction in the ability for library employees to carry forward unused vacation days at year end. This will have a positive impact on the accrued liabilities that we currently are required to disclose on our audited financial statements. Attached is a copy of a memo that was received from the city auditor, Paul Santafanti. Mr. Santafanti will be available to answer any questions that the city council may have.
I have the floor.
Madam
Do
Dean.
I have the floor, Mr. Chair?
Of course you do, Madam Dean.
Oh, thanks. I'm going to start out. I'd like to hear what other members of the Finance Committee have to say, but I'm going to start out. At some point, I'm going to ask larger questions other than the focus just on the library contract, about other contracts and the expiration or the new contracts and where we are on all of that. But right now, I will stay with the questions I have on this contract. So, Mr. Santafanti, the additional cost for the raise increase. So let me ask you, in the contract that was approved, agreed upon between the library and the city from the period of July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, that's the first year.
Yes.
In actuality, what you're suggesting here, by the way, is a typo. We'll have to tell the mayor, covering a 3. She forgot the word year. That year needs to be inserted in there, period from July 1. So in that 3-year contract, can you give the Finance Committee the percentage of raise increases for each of those years?
Yes. What was agreed to was a 2% raise in year 1 of the contract, a 2% raise in year 2 of the contract, and a 2% raise in the 3rd year of the contract.
So I assume, so once that happens in year 1, sounds very simple, 45,000. But then that's compounded to add to the salaries and benefits for the 2nd year. And then the 2nd year is compounded to add to the salaries and benefits for the 3rd year. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. According to this communication, the 45,000 is in existing funds in the library salary in the A account so that no new funds are needed. And we are going to be on Thursday. We've already discussed the library's budget with Ms. Linehan last week, but we will be coming together on Thursday of this week to continue our budget deliberation. Are we allowed to bring this up off the table to discuss it then again? Mr. Chair? Can you hear me, Mr. Chair? Unmute
I
yourself.
apologize. I couldn't get off the mute there button, the
Okay.
mute button. Could you please repeat?
So my
I got a little
question
distracted.
was this. We had the library and the director before us last week in our first section of budget review. This was not really either covered singularly, nor was it covered in an integrative way in terms of how and where the other unions in the city are in the negotiations. So my question to you is, even though we're going to ask questions about this tonight, on Thursday, can we still, the auditor will be there, bring this off the table if we have any further questions based on what we're hearing tonight?
I would assume, and the auditor can correct me if I'm wrong, we will have the mayor, she will be presenting before us, and I think on anything would be on the table in terms of when the mayor's before us, if you're looking to, like you had mentioned
Okay.
earlier, speak to
Through
the
you to the
library's
auditor.
contract. They
Thank
already
you.
were before us, so I don't know if we can get them back, but I believe anything is in play with the mayor. Mr. Sinafani, could you speak to that, please?
Sure. As I've mentioned before, I'm the mayor's designee for collective bargaining. And as the mayor indicated in her communication, if there are any specific questions about the contract or the items of agreement, I'm here to answer those.
And the mayor is on the line, Mr. Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Dean, is there
Okay.
do you have any questions for the mayor currently or Mr. Sanfani?
Well, I'm going to throw a couple of questions out there and then let's see whoever wants to answer it can answer it for me. So, the current contract for the library has expired as of when, Mr. Sanfani?
June 30th, 2019.
So the first year of the contract will be ending this June 30th already.
Correct.
And, you know, for the new members of council, especially the council and the finance committee, the discussion of collective bargaining and how it all works and the fact that we are not participants per se, except we are involved because of the bottom line necessity. But we still can ask questions about this contract, as many as we wish. So let me ask you, Mr. Sanfani, what is our role? What is the role of the finance and then the full city council? What is our role in this, since we have no ability to be participants in the negotiation of these contracts? What is our role as councilors?
Your role is to approve or to deny the funding request.
Can we amend it? Whoops, I just lost you. Can we amend it?
No, you cannot.
Okay, hold on just a minute here. I'm writing here. No amendments, and we can't modify it. Approve or deny.
Yes.
Now, was this approved or finalized prior to the pandemic really coming into the picture?
Yes, it was.
So prior to the pandemic, when we had no forecasting, no supplemental forecasting of what might happen, other than what we know and knew from past history, which was just sort of moving along as we always have. The agreement was year 1, 2%, year 2, 2%, year 3, 2%. So may I ask either you or the mayor, are any of the other unions involved, or how far are the other unions involved? Because they must be in the same state of affairs in terms of confirmation. Are they all of their union contracts were up last June 30th?
Correct. There are 8 other unions that I'm currently and actively bargaining with.
So 8 other unions, and so this union would make 9, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So for the members of the council who may never have been through a collective bargaining session, over the years, the involvement of the unions and the city basically was to go to the table and negotiate increases or changes in working conditions to balance out the lack of increases. I mean, there were other things that went on as well, but basically that's that. I don't remember seeing contracts in the last several years of just 2%, 2%, 2%. It was always something in the first year with a little bit something higher in the second or maybe even the third year. Am I right, Mr. Sanfani?
Not entirely. Most of the contracts we've settled in the last few years were for a 2% cost of living increase.
For all 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
But as you mentioned, there are sometimes other items of agreement, some that have a monetary value, but the cost of living has been 2% across the board for several contract years.
Okay. My next question, if this is approved by the Finance Committee, does this also take into account the retirees from the library?
Only if they were working during the contract period.
Elaborate a little bit further on that, please.
Well, this contract commences July 1 of 2019. If somebody retired between July of 2019, and the current date, they may be eligible for an increase.
So the COLA that is being negotiated in for approval here, that COLA doesn't apply to the already retired library employees?
Correct. It only applies to those actively employed, actively employed members.
Okay. Now, you're currently negotiating with, oh, so wait a minute, let me go down here to the last paragraph. So it's described here, in addition to the compensation of 2%, 2%, 2%,
Mhm.
agreement was reached on several language items. Could you elaborate on what those language items are? I see what one of them is, but could you elaborate on any of them?
Yes. The big one was the ability to curb the ability to carry forward vacation from one year to the next. Prior to this agreement, members of the library were allowed to carry forward up to 15 days of unused vacation time. The significance of that is on June 30th, we have to report in our audited statements the monetary value of that liability, not just for this union, for all employees across the city. So what we agreed to is to reduce that ability to carry forward from 15 days to 5, thereby reducing the reported liability for this bargaining unit.
So does that apply to fiscal 2019? I'm sorry, fiscal 2020?
It goes into effect on December 31st, 2020.
Oh, calendar, so it's
The
this year.
calendar year, yes,
Yeah, calendar year, okay,
yes.
okay. However, it does have a positive impact, okay. Since this is the library, but since there are 8 other unions involved, and could you just tell us who are they, please?
Sure. The police patrol officers, the police superior officers, the school traffic crossing guards, the managers union, the mechanics union, the dispatchers union, and the firefighters union.
Now, so the traffic guards are on the city side. None of this includes anything on the school side, correct?
Correct.
Right. So if we strictly stay with the city side, can you explain to me what could you give us any other examples of the language items that were bargained as well for this?
Yes. Right now, in their current contract, they're allowed up to 15 sick days per year. They had asked, and now those 15 sick days were only for the sickness of the employee. They had asked if some of those days could be used to take care of a child, spouse, partner, or a parent, or a sibling in the event of a serious illness that would require bedside care or household attention. And we agreed to allow 5 of those 15 days to be used for that purpose. The other item was the creation of a safety advisory committee that would be comprised of city and union, management and labor to discuss any safety concerns that may go on in the building.
Would it be related to COVID or any kind of safety?
Well, this was a reach before the COVID outbreak. So that was unintended, not intended at the time, but it's possible it could, those items could be discussed at these meetings.
And who was, is that Safety Advisory Committee going to be appointed? Or selected by the department head, or how is that?
Well, the union would pick their 2 members, and the city would have 2 members, presumably designated by the mayor.
And they're looking for what kind of an outcome from that committee?
It's an advisory committee, so there's no requirements or no binding action as a result of these discussions.
Okay. Okay. So I, right now, am going to relinquish the floor and say thank you for the answers to these questions and listen to what others might have to ask. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Dean. Do any on-committee members have any questions at this time? Councilor Mackin.
Thank you. As part of this negotiating, are healthcare benefits considered, or are those locked in by the plans that the city already has?
Well, healthcare benefits were not an item of discussion during this round. Healthcare benefits were negotiated through the mayor back in 2008.
Okay.
And during that time, there were some substantial changes made to the healthcare plans that the mayor was successfully able to get.
Okay. And should we expect renegotiation of healthcare benefits in the next few years, or are those locked in for longer?
Well,
Mr. Chairman, he cannot answer that question. I can.
Ah,
But-
okay.
Okay. What matters go on collective bargaining table. So in order to get agreement, you have to put it on the table. So it can go to arbitration, it can go not. So at the time we did this health plan, we changed the plan, the percentage, the co-pays, and the deductibles. And we used informal coalition bargaining. The only time that the council can get involved, and I'm going to answer the question directly, but the only time that you can get involved is within coalition bargaining. So every time that we've gone for coalition bargaining, the city council has said no. So what happened was we did informal coalition bargaining. So it came down to all the unions informally agreeing to bargain about it. So then we got one union did not agree. So as a result of that, I implemented the first year of the contracts. And that basically, put that together. At the time that I did this, and I have said this publicly, that I'm only going to do this once. When I was a city attorney, they changed the percentage from 99%. So I changed the percentage to the 80s, and I indicated to them, we will take the savings and do this. I have put other items on the table, but at this point, because it took a lot of effort jointly by all the unions in informal coalition bargaining to do it, I have indicated that it was going to be done once
Okay.
only.
Okay. Interesting. I really appreciate that context. And I don't think I have any other questions right now. Thank you both.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mackin. On committee, I have Councilor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Santafonte, I just want to confirm that we're clear. I heard you earlier that we are here to approve. We can't make any changes to what you already done. You are with this, with the contract, correct? We're just looking for approval. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, may I make the motion for approval at this point, Mr. Chair?
Councilor Vidal makes a motion for approval. On that motion. Off committee, I believe I have Councilor Paz.
Yeah, thank you. I just would like to commend the mayor and the union. I think collective bargaining is kind of like a relationship between the union. You know, this is our library staff and the city. So we have a commitment to working families to make sure they get a fair shake from the city. I think the 2% across the board is great. I think it's a pretty fair and commendable amount. It's relative to what's happening in the private sector. But I just think working families here, you know, could deserve a improvement in their contract the same way the city has benefited from their service. So yeah, I think it's a very fair contract. I don't have a say in this committee, but just would appreciate everyone's support, especially because I think people are struggling and this is like an actual improvement for our local families. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Councilor Paz. On the motion, roll call is requested.
Councilor LaFosse,
Yes.
Councilor Mackin,
Yes.
Councilor McMiniman,
Yes,
Councilor Vidal.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
There are no other new matters on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Before I entertain a motion for adjournment, I would like to make some comments regarding this Thursday, the in-person portion of the budget hearings. I have spoken with both the Director of Health, Michelle Feely, and the Building Superintendent, who is in charge of the Government Center, William Forty. They are both in agreement that the Government Center Auditorium is a safe place to gather for upwards of 15 people. At all times, we are to remain 6 feet apart. I will be meeting with 3 representatives of the building department tomorrow to map out a layout for us to make sure we maintain our safe social distances. While we are there and seated in our seats safely 6 feet or more apart, we are able to remove our masks. When we are moving about, using bathroom, etc., we are required at all times to have masks on. I have sent some of this information via email to you this evening. Any off-committee members who wish to attend, please let myself and Mr. Fani know by Wednesday evening, as we are going to have to do some, we are going to have to be creative on making sure we have 15 people or less in this auditorium at all times. It is going to, at times, some departments will have more than one representative with them, which makes the 15 people will come into challenge at times. So I do respect anyone who would anyone who would let us know that they will be in attendance. Some counselors have already reached out, and I do thank you for that, and it is noted. Currently, do we have any other questions for this Thursday from any on-committee members? Councilor McMiniman, I do see your hand raised.
yes, so thank you for that, Mr. Chair. The first question I have has to do with Wi-Fi. Do we have Wi-Fi available? I use my computer, or does someone have an ability to hook us up to that?
I have not spoken with Donald O'Coin, or the Director of IT. I will note that now. I will make sure. I believe that building has Wi-Fi. I do not know if anyone, Mr. Senafani, if you're able to speak to that. I know your office is in City Hall, but
I don't know for sure. I suspect it may be in that building, but Mr. O'Coin could confirm that.
I will confirm that.
Thank you.
First thing in the
But
morning.
I think that's important that we all have the use of our devices. That's number one. Number two, we're beginning at 9:30 and our last department is at what time?
2:40, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
2:45, the mayor.
So we're talking possibly to 5 o'clock, maybe not, I don't know. But, so this really is going to be an all-day session.
It seems to be that way, yes.
Okay. So my next question has to do with the arrangement for parking. For the
Arrangement
5
for
members of the
parking for the
committee.
5 members of the committee. I will have to get in touch with Mr. Forty to make sure we are able to use 5 of the open spots at Government Center. If not, we will get in touch with the Elks Lodge to see if we're able to move our cars to that spot.
Thank you. And you'll let us know ahead of time.
I will have these answers in first thing in the morning.
Okay, and my last question has to do with always a very it's more delicate than you could ever imagine. Food and what will we be eating? And so
I sent,
necessarily have to have an answer, but you know,
no, Madam Dean, I've already sent that email to keep with tradition that you have so graciously done as the chair of this committee. We are not able to provide pizzas as a communal eating is frowned upon at this time and can, quite frankly, could be dangerous. I have sent a menu out to all counselors in the auditor and the clerk's office to any people who will be in attendance. They are able to choose an item menu from the menu that's sent, and I will make sure lunch is delivered for any and all at that time. I will also have waters in
that
small
was my
bags.
next question. What about, should we bring our
Yes.
own water, but there'll be
If
water available?
There will be, I will have a case of water there, but many like to bring their canteens and such and to stay hydrated. I won't do things like donuts either because again, that's communal, so I'll stay away
Of
from that as
course.
well. But I will make sure everyone's got an email early today with an attached link to a menu, and just send me your order. I hope to have that in also Wednesday evening, pre-order it to have delivered, as we'll be a little busy Thursday morning. So if you could,
Thank you. And now, could you tell us, how are we supposed to get into Government Center? Because are all doors open, unlocked?
all doors that is at the building is locked. I am meeting with Mr. Forty and 2 of his representatives, also 2 other building department members tomorrow. I will confirm as to being let into the building, and as councils come at different times, we will have ability to get let into the building.
Thank you. And the sanitation of our workspace?
Mr. Forty again, and has offered to supply hand sanitizer, and Michelle Feely, the director of our health, has also said she will be providing sanitation wipes that we can use, and I will also be using that to sanitize the podium as each department head leaves. I will make sure that podium is properly sanitized for the next person to approach it.
So thank you. I'll bring my own gloves and mask. I mean, I've been doing that all along. However, just for my own request, if we could have maybe a roll of paper towels available, number one. Make sure there's toilet paper in the bathrooms, number 2. And number 3, when you say the sanitation wipes, are we talking about the antibacterial wipes or the bleach wipes?
Yes, that's what that was told to me from
All of
our,
that's good. Very good.
yes, director of health. She is
And then,
taking this very seriously.
And it's recommended, so we'll be social distance 6 feet apart. I guess I have no more questions. All of that seems to be right up to speed, and thank you for facilitating that, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, and the auditor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Dean. On committee, I have Councilor Mackin.
Thank you. If there are more counselors who want to participate, then we can accommodate in the building. Is there an option for them to do so digitally?
We are not at this time, do not have a Zoom conference set up. As I receive requests from other counselors, I'm checking email now to see if anyone has added. That is something that we probably should be looking into as this list grows. I do feel as working on our 3rd budget now, I don't think there's been more than 15 people in attendance, other than other department heads waiting, which that I have already mapped out an email to send about. They won't be allowed to come in and wait. So I do not see us getting that 15, but I will work with our auditor and our clerk or assistant clerk in terms of what we could possibly do had that if that arises.
Okay, thank you. And just quickly, during the discussion about the water, it wasn't clear. Can I bring my own water bottle?
Oh, sure. I was just mentioning how
Okay.
many people like to, but I will make sure there's a case of water for those who forget or just don't happen to bring one.
Okay. And I would just like to encourage, if possible, that we do set up a Zoom option proactively in case any department head comes down feeling ill or any of us comes down feeling ill in advance of that meeting, just as a fallback option, because we want to be very sure that if anybody does come up with symptoms in the next few days, that they're still able to participate and we're not delaying the budget due to that. That is all from me. Thank you.
Assistant Clerk Vizard, I believe you're on the line. I hope you're taking notes, sir.
Yeah, so I think that we may be maxing out my technical ability to do something like that in terms of a screen and webcams and any of that stuff. I'm able to do this because I can do it from a personal computer, but between now and Thursday, I don't think you may have to search for other departments that may be more equipped to help you with that than I am, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for that. I already have some notes I have to reach out to the IT director, so I'll add that to his list in the morning. Is that everything for now, Councilor Mackin?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First time around, off committee, Councilor Darcy.
Thank you very much. Yes, I just like to a point of information to the Dean of the Council. There's no Wi-Fi at 119 School Street, the Arthur Clark Government Center building. Councilor Paz and I submitted a resolution last week to provide Wi-Fi at that building as well as the Common, but there is no Wi-Fi at 119 School Street.
Thank you for that, Councilor Darcy. Second time around, Vice President McMinimum.
Wow. Thank you for that, Councilor Darcy. So I'll be in a very different mode then of working. So one other thing I'd like to ask, if you could ask Mr. Forty if there are available at least one fan, I don't care how small or large, which I've always had available for me, as many of the members know, in City Hall, based on my proclivity for asthma. And it just helps circulate the air around my head. So if there's a fan available, it doesn't necessarily have to be on. And if I have to sit to the side to use it, I will be happy to do that. But if it's a warm day and a hot day and we have no windows open, or even if they are open and it's warm in that auditorium, I'm going to need a fan. So would you make sure that's there?
Absolutely, Madam Dean. To that request, would you prefer, I plan to lay out the room and give everyone a seating assignment to make it work out easily upon arrival. Would you prefer to sit towards the window, away from a window? Does any, as I lay out the seating?
I would prefer to sit towards the window. I don't know what they have for air conditioning down there. This is a different venue for us and that I'm not used to.
That is noted. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns?
So.
No. Before we do, before we move on, I would like to say we do have the council that needs to come before us. The 10:30 time slot is vacant, as Mr. Abruzzi came before us previous Thursday. It makes sense to plug Mr. Brasco into that. I don't know, nothing is off the table right now. This is not, we're not speaking to any motion or resolution, or we have not brought the budget off the table. So I just want to point that out, that the plan would be to input the council at 10:30 where Mr. Abruzzi was and is currently vacant. Does anyone have any concerns to that?
Mr. Chair?
Madam Dean.
Thank you. I have no concerns. I think Councilor Brasco has been so busy, I mean, extremely busy. All you have to do is look at the website to see how busy he's been for the last 2.5, 3 months. So he may be busy on Thursday as well and unforeseen. So if he's available to make it, I think that's terrific. I'd make the motion to allow him to come in and I'll help him. He can tell me what we're doing. And then, but if not, I'm sure we can fit him in someplace else. Not a problem.
Yes, thank you. I did confer with him. He said that time works well. And yes, I did. I wish I had spoken last week to the craziness of his work schedule and his inability to make it last week. So that works. And there are no other questions for Thursday. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make the motion for the last time, hopefully on Zoom, to adjourn.
Councilor Fosse makes a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:44 p.m. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you on Thursday.
Take care, everyone.
Clerk Vizard, we're just going to stay on, right?
Yes, we are just going to stay on. It sounds better when I say it with the microphone on. Where's my pen?
Tell me when you're ready.
Give me 1 second, Mr. Chair. I haven't been writing during this. Now I have my pen. Okay. I'm ready, Mr. Chairman.
Call the Ordinances and Rules Committee to order and ask the clerk to take the roll.
Councilor Darcy.
Present.
Councilor Dunn.
Present.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Harris. Councilor LeBlanc.
Present.
Councilor Harris.
Sorry, present. Sorry, I thought I was unmuting. Thank you.
All members are present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. You've had a very busy week, so I know that the agenda has minutes on there, but those are not ready yet. So if you could move on and read the first matter that's before us.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Resolution concerning licensing of amusements, mechanical and electronic devices.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy.
Thank you. Yeah, so this matter is concerning the licensing, the annual permit for electronic and amusement devices, basically video games. The current fee structure is such that each of the games costs $100 per year for the rental. And the problem is that the fee schedule is out of whack. The annual fees for a pool table is $15 per year. The annual fees for a video game or a pinball is $100 per year. Now, if you take a video game such as a Pac-Man machine at either a restaurant, a bar, or at a game store, a person would have to play 400 times for the owner just to break even. And in many instances, these vendors, they lease their machines, they pay half and half. So we're talking 800 times. So the fee schedule is out of whack. In the case, for example, of the game store on Moody Street, they have to pay over $3,000 in permit fees just for the machine. Crazy. The machines themselves, the ones that sit on top of a bar or a restaurant, they cost anywhere between $200 and say $500 if you were to buy them online. the machines that sit on the floor, the full-size machines, they cost anywhere between, say, $500 and say $3,000. So the percentage of the annual fee is much larger percentage-wise than, say, your car or anything else within the city. So I'm just asking for this committee to consider lowering that fee, and also to remove the cap, because, for example, the store on Moody Street has a cap of 30 machines. And I know that many of the councils here were instrumental in changing the zoning to allow that company to come into Moody Street. And it's been a benefit because people that are dining out can leave their children at that store and then dine out. So it's a benefit for all those. And the other thing is that the requirement for the square footage for each machine is very, very high. So I don't know if the committee wants me to draft a recommendation for changes, but it surely would help the businesses, the restaurants, the bars, and also the stores that their main focus are these machines, these electronic devices. So I don't know if anyone had a chance to read my resolution in depth or if they'd like to comment on it, but I'm here. And if I hear nothing, then at the next council committee meeting 2 weeks from tonight, I'll have a red line version in Microsoft Word as a proposal to reduce those fee schedules. And people might say, well, what are you proposing? And my response to them is that the pool table fee should not be less than the video game fee. It should be commensurate or in the same ballpark. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm open to questions from other councilors.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy. Any questions from committee members? Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the maker of the resolution. Good evening and thank you. I think before I can ask questions, I need more than a concept. I would need specifics. I understand the intent and the goal of the resolution. And I think in order for us to reasonably deliberate on this in this committee, taking up that precious time, we'd need those details. And I do appreciate you willing to document that, bring it in red line, and allow us to then deliberate on that. And I thank you for bringing this forward, Councilor. Nothing further, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to.
Off committee, Councilor LaCava.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the maker of the motion. Could you please just let us know where you found the $100? Because it was my recollection up until this last year, I believe the charges were upwards of $250 and had been that way for many years through the License Commission. So I was just curious where those and how those numbers came about.
So thank you, Councilor from Ward 5. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the councilor. Yes, those fee schedules are actually in the ordinances, in our own ordinances. And as far as I know, they've been $100 per device per machine. And then there's a 30 device limit, which is an issue for a store that just has these types of devices. I've heard some comment that the annual fees were somewhat higher, but I checked out ordinances. I don't know when they were last changed, but they say that it's $100 per device. So $100 for pinball, $100 for the video game per year, but $15 for a pool table. And then also the square footage requirements. And I can provide those all to committee in 2 weeks' time. And what I'll do is I'll do a red line version, and then people can do their own research on the matter. I hope that helps, Councilor from Ward 5.
Yeah, yes, no, it definitely helps. Just seems to be some confusion as to why the charges were so high for so many years. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I just might add, I've checked other cities or towns, and they run the gamut. Some of them are like Waltham, but there's other towns in other cities that are nearby in which the fees are much, much lower. So, you know, it depends on what this council wants to do. Do they want to encourage those types of machines in the downtown, at the restaurants, or at the standalone stores, or do they want to shun them? And it's my feeling that we need to help the restaurants and the small businesses. And this is one method this is yet another method that we can employ to help them.
Thank you for that. If I could be mistaken, but I believe there might be something at the state level which caps it at 100. But that again, I could be wrong there. But thank you again for that, Councilor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor LaCava. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, could I just add one, Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Darcy.
Yep. So I mean, if people want to look, it's in section 8-616. If they go to the city website and they go to the ordinances, they can click on the ordinances, and they can go to section 8-16. You'll see all the fee schedule, the description, the square footage requirements, etc. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy. Any other questions?
And if there are no further questions, then I would move to table to the next meeting.
Just very quickly, and I apologize if you touched on this already. Do we have any sense of what revenue is for this with the city currently?
I don't, but you're welcome to make a request to the auditor.
Yeah, I think we'll, Mr. Clerk, I think that we'll do that, just to request what are the revenue numbers for this matter. I thought Vice President McMiniman made a good point at the council meeting last week that we need to pay attention to revenue in this environment right now. And not that I think that this is anything exorbitant, but it may be good to have that information. So if we can get that from the auditor.
I'd just say, Mr. Chairman, the auditor may or may not have it. It depends on how many things are wrapped up in that revenue code. For instance, a number of our fees roll up to one. So, but I can ask him, Mr. Chair.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any other questions?
Is that a request, Mr. Chair?
It would be.
Can we vote on it?
Yeah, absolutely. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Chairman, who made the request?
I brought the point up. So
I did not make the request.
So would someone like to make the request?
I would make the request on behalf of the chair.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Darcy moves to table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes
Thank
have it.
Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Darcy. If the clerk could read the next matter.
The next matter is a resolution concerning aiding restaurants and small businesses.
Councilor Darcy.
Thank you. This is a placeholder that I put in last week so that the city council can work in conjunction with the mayor and the license commission and other groups within the city to help the restaurants and businesses in Waltham. In particular, I don't know if any of the councils have searched, but the city council has jurisdiction, can permit tables or chairs associated with restaurants on the sidewalk. So I would encourage everyone from this committee to review our ordinances so that we can discuss this matter in 2 weeks' time. So that's one aspect. There's also, I believe, a meeting tomorrow with the mayor and concerning using parking lots for the restaurant. So the intent was just to put a placeholder so that the city council can act in conjunction with the other entities within the city to help the restaurants and the small businesses during this time of crisis. But I would also ask that people review on the council the issues of tables and chairs on sidewalks, because that is something that is under our control and would have to be voted upon if we were to change that.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Chairman McLaughlin, through you to Council from Ward 3. Can you repeat that last statement? I didn't follow it.
Sorry, Councilor LeBlanc. Go ahead. Councilor Darcy.
Yeah, the city council has some control over where restaurants, in the sense of they can petition the city council to place tables on the sidewalks, on public sidewalks, and we grant them that authority. So that's something that we may want to streamline. We may want to put that into the authority of the mayor or some other entity within the city so that they don't have to come before the city council. There are restrictions. If you review the ordinances, there are restrictions on the number of square footage, on the barriers that have to be put up on the sidewalks. There has to be a clear delineation between those tables and the restaurant. So this is for tables and chairs on public sidewalks. And I think there's a 5 foot, there has to be a 5 foot minimum for the sidewalk for the public to be able to navigate. So some of these sidewalks would not even be eligible because they're too narrow width. For example, the Moody Street sidewalks are between 9 and 10 feet wide. They may not be eligible simply because they're too narrow, but I would ask the councils on this committee to review the ordinances relating to that so that we can discuss it in earnest at our next meeting. And if it's the will for this committee to either streamline or change or give authority to another entity so that the vendors, that the restaurants don't have to come before the city council for the change, that's an option too. Any other issues that the city council would like to have? I made the resolution generic enough that it can be brought off the table. So that's the intent.
Thank
Does
you.
that answer your question?
It does, and the ordinance that handles that, are you making a request to have it distributed?
Sure, yeah, I would, yeah, sure, I can ask the clerk of the committee just to distribute any and all ordinances dealing with restaurants to all the members of the Ordinance and Rules Committee.
You've heard a sense of the request.
A fairly broad request.
It's actually not that broad because there aren't that many sections in the ordinance that deal with them. If you just search for restaurants.
Okay, I'll do it. I haven't looked yet, Counselor, but I'll take your word for it.
So I'll work in conjunction with you this week for you to find that out.
You've heard a sense of the request. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chair,
Councilor, sorry, Councilor Dunn, yes. Councilor
my
Dunn.
hand's raised.
Yeah.
Just a point of clarification, or maybe just to piggyback on what Councilor Darcy was saying, or perhaps I can get clarification. Is this, or can this be rolled into the proposal? I believe it's a proposal. It's not like fully fleshed out yet, but there's a traffic committee meeting tomorrow, a call regarding closing Moody Street in certain sections. So this is kind of a piggyback off that. Is that correct?
Yes, and yes. And I put the placeholder here so that we can discuss the matter. If they come back and say, well, the city council has to change this ordinance then this is a mechanism by which we can do that.
Will we be able to have some sort of an effect on the extra costs that a restaurant may have to take on, like the stanchions and the tents, if it's rains, or if we need heaters or whatever? Like, I'm thinking about like a European style street where, you know, the dining is all completely outside. There's going to be costs involved with that. Does this cover those costs, or attempt to?
No, not at this time, no. But that's certainly a discussion point that we can bring up. So I think a lot will fall out of tomorrow's meeting. And then based upon that, we'll have a better idea of what the city council has to do.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All set, Councilor Dunn?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you
Chair.
very much, Councilor Dunn. Councilor LaCava?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to kind of go towards the councilor from Ward 2 and the maker of this motion, just to help answer that, is the restaurants at this time on Moody Street are more looking for a fast action in terms of getting open. While it'd be great to think down the line European style, at this point it's looking to the tomorrow and just getting open style and being able to run a business. We're not really worried, or I should say the restaurants aren't really worried about heat and tents. They're just looking for the ability to just get some tables out onto the streets and possibly earn a living when and if the state allows us to get onto the street. So while this is all great, and the council from Ward 3 is always coming forward with resolutions to help small businesses and downtown businesses, it's greatly appreciated. In terms of, say, tomorrow's Zoom meeting, it's more of less as, can we just throw some tables out and earn a living? With everything else, we'd love to discuss down the line, but we're hoping to just get open. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor LaCava. Any other questions or comments?
If not, I move to table the matter, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Darcy
Chairman.
moves to table the matter. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilor LeBlanc moves to, those are all the new matters, correct, Mr. Clerk?
Those are all the new matters, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor LeBlanc moves to take the special permit fee resolution from February 11th, 2020 off the table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilor LeBlanc moves to
Thank you very much.
Councilor LeBlanc moves to hear from off-committee members on this matter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much. Move to hear from off-committee, Councilmember Mackin.
Councilor Mackin.
Thank you. So I brought a resolution in front of the council on February 11th to update our special permit application fees. To recap, right now, our special permit application fee is governed in the city council rules, and there's a flat fee of $500 regardless of the type of special permit that is sought, the complexity of the request. My intention with this resolution was to try to make things a little more fair in terms of what fees are being paid, especially considering the enormous amount of time the city council puts in, the law department puts in, the clerk's office puts in, and various other departments put in supporting us when these requests come before us. I asked to bring it off the table now because I wanted to talk about doing a graduated fee schedule. When I originally submitted the resolution, I attached a number of fee schedules from other communities to that resolution. And the one that I personally favor, that I want to start the discussion with tonight, is the one used by the city of Cambridge, which is a simple fee of 10 cents per new or substantially rehabilitated gross floor area. Considering that Waltham is a substantially less expensive city than Cambridge, I would put forward 5 cents per new or substantially rehabilitated gross floor area on our special permits. What I think that accomplishes is smaller businesses or less complicated permits pay a lower fee. And the break-in point between the current fee schedule and this one I'm proposing is 10,000 square feet, just for context. If you have a business that is exactly 10,000 square feet, you'll pay exactly what the special permit fee is right now. And if you're smaller than that, you'll pay less. If you're bigger than that, you'll pay more. There are a lot of other ways to construct a special permit application fee, as the several references lay out. And I hope that by lowering that fee for the smaller businesses, we can make it a little easier for them to get started in Waltham. That's a concern that you were just talking about, and that I think we're going to have going forward. And then for the bigger businesses that are doing these massive projects, I would like them to compensate us a little bit more for the time we put in for them. With all of that said, I recognize that there's probably going to need to be some discussion and negotiation with the people on the committee who are a lot more familiar than I am with the special permit process and with the work involved. I would like to suggest that we send a request to the law department asking whether or not their input would be needed for any modification to the fee schedule, or if we're permitted to make changes on our own, since it is a council rule and not an ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mackin. Is that a request that you'd like to make, Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes.
So you've heard a sense of the request. I'd ask Councilor Mackin if you work with Councilor LeBlanc to get that request in writing to the clerk. You've heard a sense of the request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to lay that matter on the table.
Councilor LeBlanc moves to lay the matter back on the table. Councilor Darcy? On the motion. Darcy?
I know that the laying the matter on the table is not debatable. I have a question. Perhaps the council can withdraw his motion.
I will rescind that request at the moment.
Councilor LeBlanc withdraws that motion. Councilor Darcy.
Thank you. So one of the questions I had, if a developer comes in and there's a change order and the size actually increases, would that fee structure actually, would the proposal, would it address the as-built, or is it just the initial permit that they come at the beginning? And that's through you to the Ward 7 councilor.
That is a good question that I had not thought about before just now. My gut instinct is that it should scale with the as-built, and that it might be useful to clarify when a new rule is written that it has to go with the as-built, not any initial proposal. And I would recommend that the language on that rule change specify when they come in with an amendment to increase the square footage, that it be required they submit the remaining portion of the fee at that time.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then the other issue that I wanted to bring up is that Cambridge also has a flat fee for any project that's within the 100-year flood zone. And I would ask that we consider that also, because as you know, the projects, at the confluence of the West Chesterbrook and the Beaverbrook greatly impact. And I'm sure that we spend a lot of additional time and energy reviewing those projects. So I'd ask this committee to be cognizant of that, maybe consider what Cambridge
If I
does
may.
on that.
Councilor Mackin.
So that's also a really great point. And if I can suggest, there are relatively few parts of Waltham that lie within that 100-year flood zone because our elevation is so much higher. It might be more appropriate to tie it to a metric either of stormwater runoff, since that is a component we consider in our special application permits, or proximity to a protected wetland or a protected stream or other body of water. That might more target, it might be a better way to target our fees for the complexity of those water specific issues that doesn't rely on that flood zone, which we have less of in Waltham. However, I recognize that there's a lot of experience on this committee that I don't have. So I hope that's something that the rest of you will consider as you discuss this.
Can I jump in for just 1 second, just in terms of a practicality item? So these fees are charged on the square footage by the building department at the time that the building permits are issued. So after they come here, which is when you'd know what the total square footage is and what the total cost of the job was, I think. So just because when they come here, they're only paying me for the, like, sort of the hearing. But the building department does charge like millions of dollars in these fees every year based on a permit that's issued pursuant to the special permit that you granted. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Good point, Clerk Vizard. Councilor Mackin?
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate that. That's something we ought to be considering when we're discussing any changes to our fee schedule. But with this proposal, we're talking about hundreds of dollars, maybe a couple thousand in some cases. So the scale of that is entirely different. And I recognize that the building department does put in a lot of time on this, but so do we, and so does the law department. And I just want to make sure that we're appropriately recognizing all of that, because it is time that we could be spending on other matters that the special permit applicant really is asking us to contribute for consideration of their project. And I really feel that it's appropriate to do so. Additionally, if we end up putting in all of the work and then deny a special permit, it never goes in front of the building department, but we still invested time in that. And I think that time needs to be accounted for with money.
Yeah, I mean, I just say, like, I need to collect the fee before they have their hearing, because I'm probably not going to get it otherwise. So it's almost like I need to know. Like, they need to.
Now I understand.
They need to pay their fee before they can have their hearing. In fact, if they don't pay their fee, I can not put them on. But once they pay it, I don't think I have a mechanism to go back and say it's actually X.
So.
Because it kind of like flies out of here and heads to the building department once you guys are done with it.
I would say the remedy for that is in the hands of the council, and that we would not grant the special permit until all of the fees have been paid as part of the application process. Unless I'm misunderstanding one of the steps here.
So they have to pay their fee before they get into you, right? So the application process is they file it and they pay their fee. So you kind of have to know what that fee is up front, not on, it's not, I mean, like, maybe it could be a moving fee, but they've paid their, before you get to them, they've paid their filing fee. It's a filing fee. It's paid at the time of filing.
So the petitions also need to be accompanied by plans of what they're putting together.
Yes.
So I view those things as running concurrently, whatever their plan is. Okay.
But you were saying, like, based on the as-built, the as-built are done like 2 years after you guys are done with it. So, like, I can't, if you want your money, you gotta get it up front.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry that took a few minutes, but I understand what you're saying now. And I guess since the question was about amendments, I believe the council still has to accept an amendment if it changes the square footage.
Yep.
So we could just deny them that until they pay us, to put it bluntly.
If it's over a certain amount, it's a new special permit anyway, so it could be fact. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I'm talking.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that explanation, because there are still a lot of things that I don't know, and I'm sorry that it took me a little bit to work my way around to understanding what you were driving at.
It probably took me a little while to get there too.
Are you good, Councilor Darcy?
No. So, I mean, I'm good, but I'm not done. But
sorry for hijacking the
I didn't want to say,
conversation.
are you done, Councilor Darcy? Go ahead.
So my question, just to put this in perspective, so everyone gets an idea, we heard, and I thank the councilor from Ward 7. She's done a great job at trying to bring us up to speed with with the fee structures that we should be charging. But for example, if one were to build a building the size, say 100,000 square feet, the size of a Home Depot or BJ's or Lowe's, am I right in assuming the fee instead of 500 would be $5,000? Is that true, Counselor?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and that runs with the Cambridges, the Bostons, the Somervilles, the Quincy's. Those are the fees.
So,
Okay, and
if I
sorry.
may,
Sure.
Cambridge is the only municipality I could find where their application fee is this simple. It seems that most municipalities either have a flat fee like ours, or they have some very complicated schedule that's based on number of parking spaces and the size of the lot and the floor area ratio and this, that, and the other thing. And I did provide some examples of those. Cambridge seemed to be the exception, where it was very straightforward and easy to calculate. And that's kind of what I fell back to, because it's so straightforward and easy to understand. And I hope easy to enforce for our permit applications. But there are certainly a lot of other options that the committee could consider if you want to have some other measure of the complexity. I hope that answers the question and it is not too far afield.
That's great. Thank you, and I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask one more just clarifying question?
Clerk Vizard?
So when we look at like use special permits as opposed to FAR special permits, would you be looking at the square footage of that site, or would you be basing it on the use? Do you know what I mean?
I think so. And that's a question that I don't have an answer to right now, because I'm a lot less familiar with that kind of special permit. So that's definitely something I would leave it to the committee to discuss and propose suggestions. And just if anybody is unable to find these documents, they're in the February 11th e-docket, but I also resent them to the chair of the committee. So hopefully it'll be straightforward to forward them if any committee members aren't able to access it.
Sounds good. Councilor LeBlanc moves to table the matter. All those,
Yes, make a motion to move it to.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you all again for your
Mr.
time.
Chairman?
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilor
you.
LeBlanc.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Thank you very much. I move to take the the resolution to exempt municipal projects off the table from 4/8 of 2019.
Councilor LeBlanc moves to take municipal, what did you say, 4/8/20?
4/8/2019.
Resolution to exempt municipal projects from zoning from the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you. This shouldn't take long. Basically, when we brought the resolution in, I had made a request to have Attorney Azadi in to discuss the resolution. We had Superintendent Forte in, who responded in writing with some ideas and what he thought would help. And so we had Attorney Azadi scheduled because of that request to come in on March 2nd. And I was unavailable, so it got postponed, and then COVID hit. So all I'm doing is basically making another request to ask Attorney Azadi to come in at the next meeting to answer questions based on this. So it's basically the same request, just later. And I can put that in writing.
You've heard a sense of the request.
Could you state
Councilor Darcy on the request.
Can you state the date and time? Is it
Yes,
June?
I make a request that Attorney Azadi attend the next Rules and Ordinance meeting. I believe it's on June 15th.
Great, thank you.
You've heard a sense of the request. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you very much.
The ayes have it. Councilor LeBlanc moves
Uh,
to place the matter back.
yeah.
Councilor LeBlanc moves to place the matter back on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilor Dunn moves to take the matter of Carly Corporation, 790 Main Street from the table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. The matter originates from June of 2019. We had new information that was in the packet. It was a response to the legal opinion. Attorney Keefe, I believe, is here. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Attorney Keefe, welcome. If you'd like to just give us a little synopsis of that response.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. As you indicated, last Thursday, we filed response materials to the law department. She issued a three-part opinion, a short initial comments, a part one and a part two. If you had a chance to look through that in detail, you'll see that we were very agreeable with the law department. Almost, the majority of the answers, I'd say well over 75, 80%. We agreed. When it came to the proposed order, we made almost all the requested changes that she had. And as far as any major items that there was any disagreement on, there really were none, in my opinion. But you'll see there you have the three-part opinion. You have a packet of exhibits, as well as a revised and clean proposed order and revised plans. I know it's a large package, so I'm happy to answer any specific questions. Just, to point out a couple things, before I had, this is now going back months, but before I had previously submitted a list of benefits as to the development. We can reiterate some of those here. A lot of it is within the law department opinion, so I'm not giving you anything new or that's not in front of you. As I've indicated in the past, we're an existing site. This is a site that's been here for about 80 years. It's been a gas station for that entire time. It's in its current form with the two pump, 4-vehicle setup, the 2 service bays, and the small convenience store has been in existence for quite some time. My clients have been business owners in Waltham here for well over a decade, both at this location and the New World Gas at the corner of Lyman Street and Main Street. It's included as Exhibit H in the package, but along with these 2 stations and the 12 others they own throughout the Commonwealth, on Memorial Day, they had a free gas promotion for hospital and healthcare workers. At the 2 Waltham locations alone, for example, they gave away over 7,000 gallons of gas to a tune of roughly $13,000 to roughly 850 healthcare workers in Waltham. So, just to drive home the point that these are folks that have been in the city for considerable amount of time. They want to invest in the city. They want to make this site much more appealing to anyone who's traveling down Main Street, while also trying to do so in the most efficient way, both not only for them, but also the city. And they felt that that's by utilizing the existing layout, utilizing the existing building, but basically just doing everything new, soup to nuts, to make everything state of the art. Fuel tanks, fuel canopy, new fire suppression system, new fuel pumps with all safety features, utilizing the existing curb cuts. And again, as I said, utilizing the existing building, which already holds a convenience store. The purpose of what we're doing now is to get rid of service bays that my clients don't, that my clients don't operate as part of their business, and B, just to really bring this building, bring this convenience store more in line with gas station convenience stores throughout the country, where a lot of service bays have been gone by the wayside in favor of these convenience stores. And again, where we already have an existing store, the purpose is really just to provide more retail for the existing customers. It's It's not a new site. It's not expected to generate any significant new traffic. Our traffic impact assessment verifies that. It actually indicates that in both a build and no build scenario, there's going to be no changes in level of service to any surrounding intersections. So we're really not proposing to have any type of big impact on the area as far as additional traffic or anything is concerned. We're really just trying to spruce up and beautify the site and make it useful for decades to come, as it's already been there for quite some time. Just to quickly discuss some of the improvements that we've agreed to with this committee. Again, this dating back to June of last year. So I know that some members of the council obviously weren't even on the council for the first 6 months of this matter until we had the second public hearing in January. But we had agreed to shrink the size of the public floor area of the store from what we had originally proposed by over 15%. And that was going from 700 square feet of public floor area to 582. And this is in a 1,196 square foot building. So we're talking about a convenience store where less than half of the space would be accessible to the public. Upon the request of the committee, when we were shrinking that store, there was discussion about removing the right side service bay. If you're looking at the building from Main Street, removing the right side service bay from public floor area, which we did. We shifted all storage and walk-in cooler space over there so that we've taken that area out of where any public could access. We've added various conditions throughout the process, including, as to the recently filed proposed order. There's a number of new conditions in there to the set based on the requests of Assistant City Solicitor Azadi, including as to the fuel canopy, the removal of the shed and trailer with the committee. At the request of Councilor Darcy, we previously added the Main Street no block zone to help aid traffic heading westerly on Main Street. So we feel that we've worked extensively with this committee and hope that those items are not lost on the committee. And lastly, just other items that we feel are of import to this renovation. I mean, this is, as I said, an old gas station. Like many old gas stations, it's a paved over site. There's not any subsurface features to treat on-site stormwater runoff, and we're proposing to do that now. This system will collect and treat all runoff from the fueling area, the underground storage area, which will be heavily treated in a multi-step system before it gets discharged to the city drainage system. And then just some other ancillary items. We've obviously we've had some significant discussions here regarding the parking. I just drive home. Again, this is an existing site. It's a pre-existing site. There's no dedicated on-site parking here. We are proposing to provide 5 parking spaces dedicated on-site to the rear of the building, as well as improving on-site vehicle circulation by adding painted arrows, allowing for easier flow around the building. Actually, this will be the first time there is vehicle flow around the building, as a trailer that used to be there has already been removed from the site. New sidewalks around the building. As I said, replacement of basically all the fuel infrastructure. And as we've indicated last summer, we did seek support of our clients. And last year we submitted over 130 signatures, about 100 of which came from Waltham residents in support of this project. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have, but I hope that summary gives kind of a good overview of what we've had here for the last year.
Thank you, Attorney Keefe. Questions, comments from committee members?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions for Attorney Keefe.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much. Through you to the petitioner's attorney. How are you doing this evening?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. I'm trying to find the old detailed store blueprints that we had from the prior meeting, so bear with me. But one of my questions was, I looked at it, you have approximately a 1,200 square foot building. The third bay that you had as to remain as a service bay in discussions, and then there was the discussion of the reach-in coolers as far as if those were actually on the public floor area or not. But so I guess my question is, the special permit, you're coming in for two items, I believe. One is to increase the retail on an existing non-conforming lot, and the second one is you're looking for, was it reprieve from 5.92 the in the parking? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, just, you're right on the latter one, the 592 reduced parking, but just to kind of clarify what you said before, it's just a special permit for the use. The existing store is a pre-existing non-conforming convenience store. We're coming in for a larger store, but it has nothing to do with a non-conforming lot. I mean, it's just the way the zoning ordinance is written. You know, anyone who had one of these stores that would want to expand the space of the store would come in under the gas station convenience store provision.
Yeah, it's a non-conforming use, not lot, correct? Or maybe I misspoke and said lot.
Yeah, the lot's not non-conforming. I mean, the lot's
correct.
Conforming to the business B zone, yeah. But the
So
existing,
I guess where I was going with that is so the gas station portion, well, I'm sorry, start off. If it's the original is call it the one, if it's a building of 1,200 square feet, you know, you divide that into three sections. Right now you have the first bay, we'll call it, is the existing retail store now. Second bay and third bay were service bays or are service bays. And what we've been sort of hashing out back and forth is expanding it over to the two bays, and what does that look like? And if you were expanding over to three bays, you'd need I think it was 6 parking spots, which I don't think you have. But if it was just the two bay, I guess if you could get it under, I think it's not public floor area, retail floor area, if you could get that under 833 square feet, would you then not need reprieve from 5.92?
So first, I would just say, if you look at the packet, if you have the package I filed last week as to the plans, you mentioned the floor plan. There's a revised set of plans in there. The last plan is the floor plan. It has the existing and the proposed, just if that helps as you take a look. But one thing you just said is you said between the public floor area and the retail floor area. This is, and I understand that it's convoluted, but the way that the parking is defined for this use, for a retail use, is based off the gross square floor area. So it's 8 parking spaces for the 1196 square foot of the building. The 582 public floor area, that ties to the gas station convenience store provision 3634, where that provision provides that you can have a max of 1,000 square feet of public floor area. So we're well below that, but that figure doesn't tie to the parking requirement. The parking requirement goes to the gross square footage of the building. I mentioned previously that, while acknowledging that, yes, this isn't how it worked, but just how it works, but just as a fact, that, 582 of retail space would actually be 4 parking spaces, and we're providing 5. But again, because the way the zoning ordinance is written, we have to go by the gross square footage. And here you have 50% of a building that is not accessible to the public. It's, again, it's a gas station convenience store. So it's not a traditional retailer like a clothing store, or even like a hardware store, or someone that sells home goods, that in that 1,200 square foot building may be able to put 1,000 square feet of retail wall to wall and have a small, storeroom, office, and, cash register area that would probably require the additional parking, because, there's additional space for people to access. Here, we're talking about a small store. Of the other 5 special permits that were granted under this section, I believe they are all over 900, so between 900 and 1,000. So we're not that. We're smaller. We're existing. We're a small site. We know we're a small site, and we're just trying to make the best of what we have there, honestly. So that's kind of where and as I said before, looking at the most efficiencies for the project, clearly utilizing the existing building when you have an existing site layout that works, makes the most sense.
Okay, I guess if your retail space, not gross public floor area, but the retail space was under 833 square feet, would you not need reprieve from 5.92?
My understanding of the zoning ordinance is we'd have to provide parking for whatever uses are there. So I don't know what that other, we still have another 363 square feet of building that's there. I'm trying to, it's short, it's going to be part of the space. It's accessory to the retail. So it just seems that that's how it would be calculated, but that's my take on it.
But if that was, I'm sorry to interrupt, if that was to remain a storage bay, that would not be an accessory to the use. And if you had a direct wall walling that off with no access point from one to the other, would that be a separate use as the service bay that's a pre-existing non-conforming? So if the building itself then remained under the 833 square feet, you're only coming in now for a special permit to increase the retail up to, if you took the third bay off, you'd be at 832 square feet. And then you, in my opinion, wouldn't need reprieve from 5.92. I'm not an attorney. I'm just, it's how I'm interpreting it, though.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things there, just as far as the service aspect. My clients, as I mentioned before, they own 14 of these New World Gas around the state. Watch City Petro would eventually become New World Gas. They're not in that business. They don't want to have service bays. They have tenants there now that rent service bays. They don't want to do that. That's A. B, they want to make the building nice here. So to leave a service bay, we'd have to keep a garage on the right side of the building. So it kind of defeats a lot of the purpose of making the site look a lot better. You mentioned if it was storage, that's still a use. So even if you separated it out from the retail store, now we have some type of storage use over there. There's still a parking requirement. So we're right back at the same issue. We'd have 5 required for the 833 store, and then we'd have additional parking for whatever other use we have over there. So it's right back to the same situation.
Because as I'm looking at the drawings you provided, the proposed floor plan,
yeah,
it looks to me, so you have a couple of compressors listed at the back of the unit. You have a couple of compressors in that bay. It looks to me if you took the compressors from a mechanical standpoint, put them on the roof for the refrigeration, you could push that You could push that rear walk-in cooler all the way to the back. You could slide the side walk-in coolers in out of that third bay, and you have not changed your retail square footage, or your let's call it the the retail square footage or the public square footage. You have not changed at all. You've just reconfigured it, and you've eliminated that one bay over there, and then you're still underneath the 833 square feet. So if you want to answer that question, then I'll yield the floor. Taking up a lot of time.
Yeah, I did have a chance to briefly speak with my engineer on this. So my short answer is I can't give you a full answer right now because the structural integrity of the roof has not been assessed as to being able to put compressors up there. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer on the compressor question right now.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I will yield the floor to other councils if they have questions.
Thank you, Councilor LeBlanc. Councilor Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the sort of piggybacking a little bit off of what Councilor LeBlanc just said, is it possible, I don't see on any of your drawings the actual parking spaces drawn in. So it's hard for me to estimate how wide they are on your last picture, your proposed floor plan. I'm assuming that they're all going to be in a row out the back.
Yep.
But it's unclear. Okay. So is it possible that if some bay, I'm going to say that in quotes, structure still exists, that a car could park, two cars could basically park in that bay? Could those not be employee cars?
So just as far as the plans are concerned, the site layout and utility plan is sheet 5. The parking is all behind the building. It is definitely busy back there, but they're actually labeled. There is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see there's 2 up against the building, including the handicap space. And then the other 3 are at the southerly end of the site, next to Waltham Family Dental.
Sorry,
So
I'm trying to find page 5. I'm sorry. Hold on.
oh no, I can wait.
Okay, so I see 1, 2.
And then just above those, you'll see a 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
So
So
those
there-
are the 5 marked parking spaces, and they are dimensioned in space number 5. You can see a 9-foot wide. In space number 1, you can see a 19-foot length marked as typical. So they're all 9 by 19s.
Okay. And then you're keeping the road that goes around it on the right-hand side of the building. I mean, access road, that's wide enough for a car as well?
It is, yep.
Okay.
We've checked that. It actually is sufficient with one-way vehicle circulation, as I recall from looking at it at the zoning ordinance. So, but yes, that's staying. That was one of the improvements as far as opening up vehicle flow. Prior to there was some additional storage over there. It actually, I believe, was of a tenant's, which they've already removed. So that side of the site is actually open now. If you went up there, you'd be able to see it.
Okay, so once again, I believe something like this was brought up, and forgive me, I'm only a couple of months into being a counselor, so some of this stuff predated me. But I believe there was a discussion about potentially outfitting one of the bays, and maybe not a full bay. I don't know if it needs to be a full bay, as parking. And if I recall, you did come back and say that was kind of cost prohibitive for the client. Is that the case?
I'd say that it's, yeah, partially that, but then also there's a couple of things just logistically. I mean, as I mentioned to Councilor LeBlanc, if you were to keep a bay door to have parking, it's going to be in front of the building, so it kind of ruins some of the aesthetics of what they were going for. And you wouldn't be able to stick it in the back of the building because it'd be blocked by a parking space. So that's not sufficient for access. So those are kind of two issues with that, that are kind of the most prohibitive.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to find a way to like maybe get one more spot in, so it's not like we're dropping from 8 to 5. We're just trying to come to a happy medium. Is there any opportunity for that within these designs?
We have analyzed that. Absolutely. Our engineer looked into it heavily. As I said before, and I've said it before tonight, we're not hiding from the fact that, it is a smaller site. And we've looked at every which way to add more spaces. And unfortunately, any way you do, you basically ruin the vehicle flow that we have. I mean, if you put it where that former storage trailer was on the right side of the site, right by Wendy's, you block anyone from being able to head that way down the back of to the back of the building. And if you come around to the other side of the building, you can see that we have two-way traffic there, so that people can either get to the front of the site to the pumps, or get to the back of the site and get out of Grant Street. So if you stuck a space next to the building sidewalk, for example, or stuck a space next to the city sidewalk, you would now lose that two-way vehicle flow. So it's been looked at extensively. It is, the way the site is configured now, 5 is what we'd be able to fit.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions, Councilor Dunn?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am all set. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the petitioner?
Councilor Harris.
Councilor Harris.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, through you to the petitioner. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I want to thank you for your work on this and your summary at the beginning. I think that maybe some of the committee members weren't here last year, but I was, and I know how far this site has come. I know there were some questions asked here tonight, and I just ask that you take those back and look at the options about viability on the roof. But I think, we are getting down to the net of options. Yeah. I know that you have worked very, very hard with the petitioner, and I want to also thank you and the petitioner for wanting to improve this site. I can speak to you honestly that, whether we were in a COVID situation or not, I can tell you that there are challenges with businesses all over the city. Some may never reopen. So those that are willing to invest, those that are willing to improve, those that are willing to improve the tax base for the city of Waltham, we need to carefully weigh that in this committee, but we need to look with our eye to revenue. It supports our city, it pays for our schools, it pays our streets, it pays our firemen and our police officers. So with that, are you able to prepare written testimony back to us in 2 weeks so that we can further deliberate this? Because I think, can you answer that first, and then I have a question for the chair.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you saying that, Councilor, and for realizing the work that's gone into this. That is appreciated. If you saw at the top, one of my clients is on tonight, so I'm sure he's happy to hear that. And he, as you said, his goal is to invest in the city, jobs, permit fees, additional taxes. I mean, he wants to be here. He wants to invest. But yes, we will absolutely continue to look into these outstanding items, try to make sure that we can address those fully and get this to the finish line.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, I want to turn my attention to the chair. So, Mr. Chair, I know that there was an extension filed on this, and just for all those watching at home and maybe those that are new to this issue, we went through a whole special permitting process last year, and we ran out of time. And the petitioner had to refile, re-come in, retestify, resubmit, and continue to work through this process. So I'm stating that for the record. My question now is to the chair. What is the expiration date on the last extension, Mr. Chair? Do we have that? Or does the clerk have that, please?
It's Attorney Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the 24th of June?
Yeah, when we knew that we were filing for this meeting, we had extended before the last city council meeting to the end of June. Anticipating obviously that we hope we could wrap it up before, but just anticipating that we'd give the whole month if needed.
So
Okay.
I'm sorry, Councilor Harris. So today's obviously the 1st. We'll have council next week on the 8th. We'll have
Mhm.
committees again on the 15th, and we'll have council again. Council, I believe, committee council on the 22nd. So
And then after the 22nd, Mr. Chair, that marks the, I know there'll be special meetings called, but that will mark the beginning of summer break, although very few of us are taking breaks. But that would begin regular session, and then we'd be in special session over the summer, correct?
that is correct.
Okay. So I just want to remind everybody of the
Just to
time.
be clear, so this extension is only till the 24th of June. So
Understood.
that's what we're working with right now.
Right, and we have a handful of questions still remaining, which the attorney has assured us that he'll be able to get that written testimony back to this committee in 2 weeks so we can further deliberate and then, need to be looking at making a decision given the timeline that we're up against.
Yes.
I have nothing further. I make a motion to place that matter back on the table. Thank you to the attorney and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Harris. Councilor Harris moves to place the matter on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank
Am I
you.
not here? Am I muted?
Councilor LaCava, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Chairman,
Councilor
Councilor-
LaCava. I'm
He
sorry.
was waving his hand.
I did not see a
He
hand
was
up.
waving.
Councilor Harris withdraws the motion to
I
table.
withdraw my motion.
Councilor LaCava.
No, I just wanted to kind of echo what the counselor from Ward 8 said. As the Ward 5 counselor where this station stands, I want to thank Mr. Patel for looking to beautify a station that hasn't, that could use it, and looking to spend some money downtown where we know there will be some vacant storefronts. So I know I have missed being on the chair of finance while these committees usually meet at the same time. I have been absent for some of the recent items when this has come off the table. So I'm trying to familiarize myself again with this as it does sit in my ward. And I do just want to thank Mr. Patel for looking to spend some money in our city, which will be needing it. And I do thank the council from Ward 8 for those comments, and I will look forward to hearing from the petitioner's attorney going forward.
Thank you, Councilor LaCava. Councilor Harris moves to table this matter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Keith.
Thank you, everyone.
Can I have a word to say?
Actually, Mr. Patel, you can't, but we can, it doesn't work that way, and the attorney represents you in these hearings. Had I seen you earlier, that we have little blue hands here on our screen that tell us who can speak, and even with Councilor LaCava, I had trouble seeing it. So you're going to come back before us, though.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Dunn moves to take 1017, 1019 Main Street from the table. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Attorney Connors, welcome. We received information from you today. If you could just go over that. You're on mute, sorry.
My apologies. So yes, the last time we kind of did as Councilor Harris said, the unpacking of the issues. It seemed like there was a request at that time from Councilor Harris to look into any potential other traffic mitigation. I had made mention this property was granted a special permit in 2017. At that time, that was just for approximately 5,000 square foot lobby addition that didn't add any new office space. It went from a single tenant user to a multi-tenant user. That's why the lobby was needed. But there was mitigation done at that time. The Traffic Commission therefore didn't ask for additional mitigation, and the ordinance doesn't ask for it in that it's based off of, it's a simple function of square footage added. I did make mention that the commission did feel that this helped for traffic and pedestrian safety in the area, in that there would no longer be a need to go to the remote parking lot. I noticed, and I brought it up at other meetings, but during that meeting, I may not have made mention of, I mentioned the closing of the two driveway entrances to what's been referred to as Lorenzo Alongi's lot. He had a business there. But the condition also states that there'll be new sidewalks put in at that area. And that's included in the proposed order, which had been in front of you at that time. Today, I did file a new proposed order and a new red line proposed order. The red lines, it's a 16-page document, but the red lines are limited to the last page, and there's simply two new conditions that are being proposed. Number one, once again, as to to Councilor Harris's request for potential additional traffic mitigation. I placed a call to traffic engineer Garvin. As was mentioned earlier tonight, he's been tremendously busy with traffic commission meeting last week, and then the request to look into and I've been working a little bit on it myself with the Chamber of Commerce, the pressing needs of the restaurant community, especially focused on downtown Waltham on Moody Street due to the pandemic. But he did turn around an answer for me for what he saw as 4 crosswalks that go across Main Street, and he estimated them at roughly $150. So I included in my package today an email from him saying that it would be $600 for those crosswalks. We agreed to add that condition as the last condition, and the last first. And before that, and the reason I did them in this order is at one of the earlier meetings, Councilor Darcy had made mention of a desire to potentially have whether the petitioner considered any parking for the rail trail that's been moving along and abuts the property immediately to the north, straight up Prospect Hill Road. So I went back to my client after speaking from hearing Councilor Darcy's comments, but also in speaking with Ward Councilor Anthony LaFosse, who's on the call tonight as well. We looked at the plans and what we could do, and we have agreed to a condition number 17 that's added here for 5 parking spaces along Prospect Hill Road for the rail trail use on Saturdays and Sundays from 9 to 5. So if people are coming from, obviously if you're in the neighborhood, you're gonna just bike down. But if you're coming from the north or the south of the city, especially I would think if you have a younger child, you might wanna throw it on the bike rack, throw it in the back of the car, put on your helmet there and go up the hill, 50 yards, and then be able to take the beautiful rail trail new bike path. So with those 2 new conditions, I hope we've answered the committee's concerns, and I can answer any questions at this time.
Attorney Connors, any questions or comments from committee members?
I have a question.
Councilor Harris.
So again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I threw you to the attorney for the petitioner. I do want to thank you again for reworking those items. They may seem really small in the grand scheme of the investment of the building and the things that your client has already invested in and the reason for the special permit tonight. But I can tell you honestly, I can't speak for the ward councilor in that area, Councilor LaFosse, but I can speak as a ward councilor. It is the small efforts of putting well-marked crosswalks that generate public safety and do make a difference for people who are walking and are pedestrians. We do have a lot of bike riders, and people want to be able to, especially now, to get out and enjoy the rail trail. And I think the consideration of parking dedicated for both rail trail and veterans allows seamless integration of these changes into the new plan that you're proposed here tonight. So I appreciate you taking those, what might seem really small things back, but they make the biggest impact to the community and to the residents that walk by there every single day. So I do want to thank you. My question is to the chairman. What is our time limit? I know this was an extension. This was another case where we had to resubmit on this matter as well. It's been before us for quite some time. On this extension, what is the deadline or expiration date on the last extension for this, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
Attorney Klein, correct me if I'm wrong. So this is our last committee meeting on this matter as it stands right now with the extension. It would be going to council next week. You know, with the thought that if it's coming out of committee tonight. Is that correct?
Correct. We had a substantially sized package of responses, and we went over them at the meeting, and it seemed like it was limited to the issue that I had raised, and we came back with what we thought were appropriate answers and proposed conditions. So it didn't seem like there was a lot of work to be done at that point, and we hope the committee feels they're in a position to move this to the full council.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say one more thing through you to the attorney for the petitioner. You know, these are very trying times for our city. You know, it's been mentioned in prior testimony that there's a meeting tomorrow to really focus on just getting business started back on Moody Street, and that is in my district. I have been an active member of this committee for 3 years. This is my 3rd year. And I will tell you, we did not rush to this deliberation on the special permit. This has been before us for quite some time. I do want to thank you and your petitioner for working with the city, working with every working member of this committee to slowly and methodically make this work for not only the ward, but also for the city. And I also want to thank you for an investment. The investment in this special permit is going to drive more revenue dollars. It will increase the property value, and it will drive more revenue dollars for the city. And that is something that we absolutely need to be mindful of, and do appreciate that you will make that investment, as well as the client that you represent. Unless there are other questions from committee members, as a active working member of this committee.
I have a question from the ward councilor.
The ward councilor. I'll yield the floor to the ward councilor, and then I'd like to be recognized. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Harris. Councilor LaFosse.
Thank you. Through you to the petitioner, I just want to, as the ward councilor, want to reach out. Obviously, coming into this, the major concern was always that additional parking for rail trail, for veterans, and the use of the lot across the street. And I think we're very appreciative as the ward councilor that Attorney Connors and your client, the Davis Company, have been willing to accommodate that concern with the parking. I think that's going to satisfy a lot of the issues moving forward. And I think it's a good thing for the city. So thank you for that. And at this point, I'll just yield and wait for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
I have a question.
So I have the floor.
You do, Councilor Harris. I'll be with you in 1 sec, Councilor LeBlanc.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the ward councilor's testimony and everything that's been before us, I make a motion to approve.
Okay. On the motion to approve, Councilor LeBlanc.
Yeah, more of a point of information. On this with the revisions, there was, and we discussed it at the last rules and ordinance meeting. One of them was the Alonge lot to merge that with the 880, and then the second motion was to separate off the second lot. Now, this evening, the vote, is it for simply merging the lot, or is it still the two moves of merging the one lot and separating off the other?
No, I would just like to make note, I heard a couple times tonight, and I can make a change to include in the package. The condition currently is for rail trail, it just listed rail trail only, but I'll add that to say and veterans on condition number 17, due to the proximity of the Veterans Building at the corner of Columbus Ave and right across the way. But no, the petition is as it had been from the beginning. Assistant City Solicitor Azadi came into the last meeting for your question, Councilor LeBlanc. And there was a discussion that there's a potential for a condition, but that was not what the petitioner had proposed. And the special permit order, as I mentioned, the only changes that were in the proposed order were for two new conditions, condition 17 as to rail trail, and now we'll say rail trail and veterans parking, and as to the crosswalks, which after discussions with traffic engineer Garvin thought would be helpful in the area. And those are thermoplastic crosswalks, which help for reflection from the lights and obviously help for the pedestrian site as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Attorney Connors. That answers my question. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor LeBlanc. On the motion for approval, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No. Sorry, Chairman.
So again, just to be clear on that, Councilor Vizard, roll call vote, please.
Yep. Councilor Darcy,
No.
Councilor Dunn,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Nope.
Does the chair wish to vote?
Chair votes yes.
Okay, the vote's 3-2 in favor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you very much.
So that matter will come out to council next week. Any other matters that the committee would like to discuss? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Harris moves to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.